Next week will mark 3 months since the Capitol riot shocked the nation. And if you can remember, the left and the mainstream media, but I repeat myself, wasted no time writing the narrative that this was an armed insurrection aimed at the overthrow of the republic. U.S. senators said that this was the next 9/11. This was Pearl Harbor. But now we're learning that that narrative, which I believe incidentally was in part foisted on us to stop us from talking about what actually happened in the election, has completely fallen apart, as many of the Capitol rioters are unlikely to even serve any jail time. So what's changed? Let's bring in someone who's been following the story from the very beginning, Julie Kelly. She's the senior contributor of American Greatness and author of the book Disloyal Opposition, the ultimate critique of the Never Trump movement. Julie, you've been doggedly covering the Capitol riot from the start. What have you found in poring over the cases that the Justice Department is prosecuting or not right now?
Thank you, Ben, for having me on. I think that Politico headline is something that we have been covering at American Greatness for several weeks, diving into these various indictments. Almost 300 people have been arrested so far. Nothing rises to the level of insurrection or sedition, which the Justice Department promised that was going to be charges forthcoming. So all of these narratives have fallen apart, from the armed insurrection. No one was charged with possessing or using a firearm in the Capitol that day, to the death of Officer Sicknick, which we now know was a lie from the very beginning, based on an account published in the New York Times. And so now the media is catching up with what an egregious overreach this has been by the Justice Department. You're going to have a lot of unhappy people. Not only are charges going to be dropped, but no sedition, insurrection type cases will be able to be brought forward. And judges actually are starting to fight back on a lot of what the Justice Department has been presenting to the courts.
It's really amazing. If they can't make anything stick in so many of these cases, the cases must really be thin, given all the resources that have been put into these investigations. And it sort of in some ways seems to parallel some of the Russiagate-related prosecutions as well. Not that nothing happened in this case, because obviously what happened at the Capitol was shameful, but it seems once again like there's a narrative in search of actual evidence to justify what was put forth, and it's just not there. And you've termed this essentially a political prosecution. We're witnessing essentially show trials where the process is the punishment. Do you think that this is the model for what's coming under a war on domestic violent extremism, that is a war on wrong thinkers in this country?
That's a great point. I think you're spot on there, Ben. We see that the Department of Homeland Security, the Defense Department, the Director of National Intelligence, who used to be John Brennan's top deputy at Obama's CIA, obviously she learned well how to politicize intelligence. And so the idea that these people are domestic violent extremists, and in Avril Haines' report, I know you saw this, they had a depiction, a graphic of the Capitol building underneath or above this category called domestic violent extremists. Now, to your point, several people have been charged with vandalism, with stealing property, of course, with assaulting police officers, but the overwhelming number have been charged initially with misdemeanors and then had this enhancement charge called obstruction of an official proceeding, which I write about. Over 130 people have been charged with that. That brings a felony count to mostly misdemeanor cases. And it'll be interesting to see in that Politico report today, they actually point out how dangerous pursuing that charge will be in terms of a chilling effect on future political protests. Because as you know, demonstrating when Congress is in session, or State of the Union, or certainly Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing, that was all fine. But if you start convicting people of that based on what happened January 6th, it is going to really criminalize political dissent, not just for Trump voters, but of course for the other side too.